All right, everyone. I don't know whether this is going up last or if the other thing went up last, but the last thing that we played at Summer Game Fest was Warhammer 40K Darktide.
Yeah, and I was really looking forward to this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It ended up being like a weird situation because originally we were going to play it in a building just like off-site but right next to Summer Game Fest. But then something happened and we had to like drive across town. But we got to play it. And the devs, they were big fans of Easy Allies, wanted a picture with us and everything too. So that was fun. But yeah, I was a veteran. What class did you end up being?
Oh, God. I can describe the class really well, but I am blanking on the name.
Blanking on names.
I am blanking on the names. I feel bad.
They didn't let either of us play as the Ogren.
The Ogren and the Space Wizard was the other one.
Yeah.
That they described it as, like a Strigan or something.
Mirai was what? Was that?
Yes, that was me.
Yeah, okay.
I believe that was me. Yes, yes. I can describe the class, but I'm blanking on the actual name.
But yeah, we got into a level and we were blowing up some stuff and we were pulling some cooling rods and we had a full group of 4 people.
Yes.
And we were following that ogre everywhere they went.
Yes. Yeah.
Leading the way.
So obviously, same developers and really same style. Basically, a 40K version of Vermintide, if you're familiar with that game, and if you're not, think of, I think Left 4 Dead is like a good base to jump off from, where you're fighting tons and tons and tons of enemies, and you really have to work with your team to get through the level, accomplish objectives, and survive. And my character class had a giant hammer, which you could electrify, which I kept forgetting to do, and then I also had an assault rifle.
Yeah, and I had a chainsaw blade. I don't know what the proper name for it is.
Sure, yeah.
But like they had maps to like this like side button on the mouse, so I don't know what button you'd normally use.
I'm not used to using the side buttons on my mouse, so it's a little awkward for me.
Yeah.
But
so you'd hold that, and like the blade would rev up, and then you could use it for more damage or whatever. But like similar to you, it's like I was having a hard time trying to figure out like when is a good time to use this, because charging the blade, takes time that you're not swinging your sword.
Right.
You would swing the sword for mobs, but then we also have weapons.
Yeah. And so that's
guns, basically. Yeah.
A big differentiating thing from Vermintide, and that was something that they talked about, where Vermintide, most of the time you're using your melee weapon, and then like your ranged weapon would be for special occasions, but overwhelmingly you'd be using melee weapons. And here it's more of a 50-50 or 60-40, as they said. And that really kind of changes how encounters feels, because like you'll see an oncoming horde rush at you, right? And I would have a moment where it's like, okay, I'm just like frantically aiming down the sights, and you cleave through them pretty fast. And I feel like a lot of the enemies are also ranged, and so that's something that you have to pay attention to, because they'll have laser sights on you, and it
won't just be like they're shooting at you. It's like no, they will shoot like this huge flamethrower thing, and then just the whole section of the ground will be lit on fire.
I think that's a different enemy that we're talking about.
Yeah, but I mean, it's still like they're coming at you from a distance. And, and you might not see them because like somebody else is going in that direction, and you're trying to deal with your own thing, and then all of a sudden the ground's just on fire, and it's like, oh crap.
Yeah. And so just like the range at which you're encountering things feels slightly different. And I had a moment where I was like shooting, I believe, at a ranged enemy in the distance, and I'd be like crouching behind a barrel and then getting up and shooting him. But don't let that mislead you. It's certainly not a cover-based shooter. It still very much has its DNA in Vermintide. It's just you kind of have those moments sometimes. But if you rely on your ranged weapon too much, which I definitely did, you will totally find yourself out of ammo, right? And so that is something to balance, because as the more I played, the more it's like, why am I wasting my ranged weapon when there's a small handful of enemies, why don't I save it for the moments where there are those just absolutely overwhelming hordes, right? And same thing with grenades, right? Like I had a grenade throw where it's like, oh man, I totally wasted that grenade, and that felt crushing.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. It's like you get a horde, and it's like this is a perfect moment to throw a grenade, and then you just toss it in a panic, and like, did that hit anything?
Yeah. But the end of the mission was really exciting, and I think very comparable to Vermintide, because Vermintide missions I feel like end in like kind of this like very chaotic, like very tense sort of like final stand, and that was totally the case here, because we had these like canisters of like liquid coolant that we'd have to pick up and put into things. But what was interesting, and where the team element comes into play, is when you pick up those, if you're the person that's like delivering that coolant, you can't attack. Obviously you can drop the thing and then attack, but you can't attack while you're holding that thing, and you can't go up a ladder.
Yeah. And if you get attacked, you'll drop it.
Sure. Yeah. So it was because it like just kind of organically, I feel like I feel like I picked it up, and then you were like, okay, I'm gonna protect you, right? And we weren't even talking to each other,
right.
But I think just based on the situation, it seemed like that teamwork kind of came and gelled in a cool way.
Yeah. Then there's another situation kind of midway through where we were like putting these things on these computers and decoding. Did you do that, where like the little screen came up and you're like trying to match up the symbols?
Yeah. So
while like, okay, is a horde gonna come through while I'm trying to do this little puzzle thing?
And an important thing to mention is that the decoder that you're using is a skull that just latches itself onto the computer, so that's pretty sick. But yeah, as Blood described, this line will go across, and you have to click in the right time to get it to go. But yeah, it very much, I think if you enjoyed Vermintide, this is definitely in the same vein. I feel like at the end of the session we were like, we can't wait to stream this.
It's funny because like on the one hand, it's like it feels like we got to play a good chunk of it. At the same time, it's like it's just one match. Yeah. So it's like it's hard to really get a feel for everything. Just like getting your feet wet.
Yeah. New thing in comparison to Vermintide is you can sprint, and then while you're sprinting, you can crouch, and that will do a slide.
Yeah.
So that's important to know. I kept forgetting about the slide.
Yeah, it's a fun thing to do at the end of the level, to slide into that ship.
But yeah, I had a good time playing it. I mean, it definitely felt like comparable and similar to Vermintide, and that sort of satisfaction. I mean, did you feel roughly the same way?
Yeah. One thing, I don't know if Vermintide has this either, but they mentioned your shields recharge when you're close to the group.
Oh yeah, they did mention that.
And that's a really important way, I think, of like, emphasizing like, don't go wander off on your own. It's not going to work out for you.
And
you have health packs too that you can drop down and heal in that area, as well as healing stations with a limited number of charges.
Yep. Yeah, and so that's actually a really good thing to bring up, because there will be damage that you take that you can't just recover with like a med pack, right? And so you'll have to use these healing stations to fully recover yourself and get all of that life back. And those, as you said, have a limited number of charges, right? And so again, you kind of want to be working with your team and allocating that stuff appropriately, because I think, did they have like 3 charges?
I feel like different stations had different numbers of charges.
Okay.
But it could just be when I got up to them. So
okay. Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't. And there's 2 different difficulty settings. We didn't get to experience this, but they were telling us about it. Where you can change, like, I think the actual difficulty of the enemies themselves, but you can also change the volume of enemies.
Oh, okay.
And so,
interesting.
because I had a hands-off presentation before I went and had the hands-on presentation, so you didn't get this part, but. And he was like, so if you just want to be somebody that's like, I want a ton of enemies, but I just want to cleave through them,
Nice.
you can do that, which is pretty interesting. And it's always nice, I think, having very tweakable difficulty. Let's see, is there anything else that the ping system.
Oh, yeah. Well, it was on the, it was mapped to the mouse wheel, but you could ping pretty much anything. Yeah,
the kind of thing that I didn't like about that is like you could ping and just it would put like essentially a map marker and like go here, which is useful. And I love easy ping systems for communication. But and you could also ping things like ammo here or healing here or so on and so forth. Something I didn't like though is like the actual like objective markers were the same color as like the map markers, and I'm like, I don't know that I like that, because like I feel like it just takes a second to be like, wait, is that a player marker or is that an objective marker? And I got a little confused there.
Right.
I
do think the player markers were a little more orange, while the map markers might have been more yellow. But if they're looking at it right now, they'll probably see everything that we're incorrect about.
Yeah, yeah, but because the skull markers were objective markers, I feel like they were pointing towards the. Yeah, so I think maybe those things being a slightly more differentiated would be good.
But yeah, we're definitely looking forward to.
Screaming at each other.
Yeah, screaming at each other and doing some streams. Although, like Ben said, we were like actually very quiet.
We were. That was something that they said. They were like, you guys were just kind of like cooperating in silence, and we were, which is like kind of peaceful and serene. Like everybody was just like somebody would go down and just without saying anything, go up and revive them. It was nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so looking forward to it. We'll have some streams when we can. Thank you.